Welcome to Real Estate and Murder, a podcast about real estate and murder.
I am Amy Brockbank.
And I am Sarah Brager. We are both licensed real estate agents in the state of Utah who have a common fascination with true crime.
We are here to tell you stories of murder amongst the real estate community. It might be an agent, it might be a client, it might be an undetected serial killer.
When it comes to real estate crimes, some are predators and some are prey.
We just want to issue a trigger warning. The content of these cases can be difficult to hear from time to time, and please listen with care.
All right, Amy, we're back.
Part two
of the disappearance and death of Rosemary Christensen. This one is rough.
It was rough.
So let's jump right back into it. It is, let's say, a month-ish after Rosemary's disappearance. And Robert and Leslie, these idiots, they need a new plan, right?
Yeah.
They got to leave town. They know that Robert's a hot suspect. They got to take off. So they've packed the moving van of all of the belongings from the condo, and they start wandering the country a little bit. They're looking for a game plan. They don't know what it is quite yet. Robert is on disability at this point, so he's collecting a disability check. And Leslie occasionally takes a job here and there, but they're mobile for a little while until they eventually settle in Redding, California,
Okay.
which is 3,000 miles away from Florida. They settle down and they have a child in 2005,
Oh, shoot.
to which I said, gross.
Yeah.
So they they go on living about their life as though things are wonderful and normal. They have a family. Robert's starting over. But Robert just cannot contain himself.
Of course not. Poor child. And I hope Leslie's watching the baby like a hawk.
So the child is seen in a couple of photos. Maybe even just one photo that's circulated in a couple of the documentaries, but her face is blurred out and they never give a name, which rightfully so, right? They're protecting the child and that's exactly what should be done. But I don't know anything else about the child except that she was born in 2005 and that it's a girl. So on August 25th in 2008, so does that date sound familiar?
Yeah.
August 25th. Robert allegedly threatens Leslie. I say allegedly because this is Robert's story against Leslie's story, but he threatens Leslie with a giant knife and says, if you ever tell anybody about what happened, I will kill you, I will kill myself, and I will kill our daughter.
Wow.
So August 25th, I'm bringing that up because Rosemary disappeared and died. We find out later that she died on August 26th.
Yeah.
So this is 2008. We're 9 years later, but this is clearly a time trigger.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's coming back up.
The anniversary.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So at this point, Leslie decides that...
I hope Rosemary's like haunting him all the time. Like
I'll bet she is.
He just fills her and it's driving him crazy.
I'll bet she is. And if not, then when we go, we'll handle it. Right?
Yeah.
So actually we can't. Robert's dead. But
good for him.
Anyway, he threatens Leslie and she decides it's time to go back to her good old buddy, Jay Herbert. Okay, his name is spelled Hebert, and they pronounced it Herbert on one podcaster episode, which is not even how it's spelled. And the other one was like Hebert, like he's French. I don't know. It's Herbert, whatever.
Okay.
Jay, let's call him Jay.
Sure.
Sorry, Jay. I apologize. I'm sure you're a great guy. So on August 25th, the same day that this threat happens, Leslie is actually heading out to go to a family reunion in Seattle.
Okay.
And she is threatened by Robert with this large knife. She's scared. I cannot tell if Leslie takes the daughter with her or leaves the daughter with Robert.
I hope she took the daughter.
But it makes sense to me from the way that the next part of the story unfolds that the child was with Robert.
Ugh.
So she goes to Seattle. She tells her family, she starts confiding in people what's been going on, that he's threatened to kill her, that he's been mean and potentially violent before. And they are like, all right, Leslie, enough's enough. Like, you got to do something about this. You need to leave. So it's 10 days later that she's been on our family reunion, right? And it's September 3rd, 2008. She calls Jay, who barely remembers her, until he hears Rosemary's name. And then he realizes what's happening.
Yeah.
He knows that finally Leslie is going to come forward with the story.
Yeah, she's going to be the catalyst that closes this case.
Correct. Because Jay, as a criminal defense attorney, which I'm sure has some emotional implications of its own, right? He's been carrying this secret for 9 years.
Yeah.
So she tells him the same story that she told him 9 years ago when they met. And the difference is now she's going to waive her privilege.
Wow.
The client attorney privilege. And she also is going to waive spousal privilege. They're married now. So Jay now is given permission to
go to the police.
So down in Florida, investigators come to a screeching halt. They get this phone call, come to a screeching halt. They they drop their Costco hot dogs and they board a plane. They are like on their way. They are going to go interview Leslie immediately.
Yeah.
They have also been waiting for this moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to get into this part of the story. I'm telling it from Leslie's
point of view,
from the telling of her story. Okay. And ultimately at the end of this case, you can decide if she was a victim or a manipulator.
Okay.
We'll see.
I mean, she's 22.
She was 22 at the time. We're 9 years later.
Yeah.
So she says that on August 26th, 1999, Rob called her repeatedly, insisting that she come over to the condo. And when she gets there, she finds him drunk and he's mumbling. He's not really coherent. And he tells her at this point about the manslaughter charge from the 70s. And he tells Leslie that there's no such thing as the witness protection program.
Did he tell her he was in witness protection?
No. What he's doing is threatening her.
Oh, I see where this is going. Like, you can't hide from me.
Exactly.
So so many thoughts, but it's okay.
Leslie asks, where's Rosemary? Because it's night.
Yeah.
Like, you invited the mistress over to the condo of the wife. Like, sketchy. So they go into the bedroom. Rosemary is laying in a pool of blood with her eyes closed.
She sees the body.
Mm-hmm. Oh, girl, she sees the body, but just wait. Robert tells Leslie that Rose snuck up on him from behind and struck him on the head with the butt end of a large knife. And that from there, they struggled. Okay, remember the story that he told the police about his first wife, how they struggled, they fell off the porch together. He's telling the same narrative, okay?
Also, no, if Rosemary's going to sneak up behind him with a knife, she's going to use the actual blade and not the handle.
That's a great point.
What the heck? To knock him out?
Great point.
To beat him? Like, you're holding the knife and you're going to hit someone and risk, like, the knife cutting your finger. Like, that's stupid. A knife is used one way, like, not the other. Like,
it makes zero sense.
He's
of
stupid.
Course. He is. He's selfish. He is stupid's a good word for it. There's nothing else to call it, right?
Yeah.
But he tells Leslie that they struggled in this fight and Rosemary fell on the knife.
Of course. It was an accident.
She fell on the knife.
Okay, but where was the 911 call that was immediately like...
There was no 911 call.
Yeah.
Leslie decides that this is fine. This is all fine. She's totally okay with this story. Makes perfect sense. And she's going to help Robert dispose of the body.
No.
Mm-hmm. And they obviously need some supplies at this point. They've got a lot of work to do. They got to rip out carpet. They've got to cover their tracks. They need to spray paint. My assumption is blood splatter on the wall. Splatter on the wall. They've got to run to Walmart, buy a bunch of cleaning supplies, and get moving. So, you know what happens with the green tote. I don't have to say it, right? Got wheels. They actually used the duct tape that was bought to duct tape it shut. Leslie tells the investigators in her interview.
How drunk is this man right now?
I don't know if he's drunk at all. I don't know.
Because I don't know that he would be super helpful, but also too, like, she's 22. Like, how is she doing this
like,
by
walk
herself?
in a straight line. Say the ABCs backwards. How drunk are you? Doesn't matter. He has such a violent history with her. Like, this was probably inevitable no matter what, unfortunately.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm just saying, like, how much of it was Robert, like, this is what we need to do, and how much of it was, like, Leslie, like, okay, hey, this is the body, but no, you can't. Here's our to-do list.
You're going to find out more. And that's why I said you get to decide, ultimately, if she was a victim or a perpetrator.
Yeah.
Okay? So Leslie tells the police in her interview, though, that she did all of this out of fear. She was scared. And she was only helping Robert because he threatened her about the witness protection program, told her about the manslaughter charge, and now he's killed his wife. So she's scared. But that begs the question, why did you then live with him for another decade and have a child
kid
with him?
Also, too, like, you see like, don't you just run out, like, take your chances, call 911? Like, I'm not going to stay there and help.
I think most of us would. I do. But again, like, she has a child with this man who she knows killed a child
and his
in
wife.
1970s. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And his wife. Right. So the police, the investigators, they're writing all this down. They're taking notes, but they need one more thing. They need the body.
Yeah.
So the investigators and Leslie tells them obviously about the threat that Robert made to her on August 25th. And they're concerned that if Robert starts to suspect that she's talking to the investigators at all, that he will follow through on that threat.
Yeah.
So,
and they have a child, so the child's in danger.
And the child at this point is with Robert. So
that's just common sense too. Someone threatens you, and then you leave for 10 days and leave your child. And
yeah, and the only part that's a little bit murky on that,
and I realize I'm passing judgment, but
no, it's okay. It's tough not to when we're telling stories like these.
Yeah.
But so she left to Seattle to go. She was there for at least 10 days because that's when she tells her family. It's murky. I don't know at this point if she's back in California, if she's still in Seattle when they come to meet with her. I'm not sure, but they are concerned for the safety of the child. So the investigators actually have local police in Redding, California, arrest Robert based on just that threat on the 25th.
Okay.
And the child at this point goes into protective custody.
Okay.
So let's go back to that prison interview that Robert gives this journalist. And he says, Leslie is flat out lying. She is a vindictive, treacherous liar. She is just doing this to take me out. Who would wait 10 days to report a death threat? That just doesn't make any sense. That's how you know it's a lie. First of all, Robert, I think there's plenty of victims out there who wait a while to report a death threat because they're terrified.
Yeah.
Also, let's just go under the assumption that this is not the first time that you've been nasty to her.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it took her a lot of courage, I'm sure. Whether
she's being, for sure, emotionally abused, but almost most likely physically abused also.
I mean, whether she was
based
complicit,
on like pattern of behavior from his previous relationships.
That's right. Whether she was complicit or not, which we know she was, but she's still in a relationship with a very dangerous, scary man. Okay. So Leslie flies down to Florida with the investigators, and she meets up with her attorney, Jay, and they crack a deal with whomever cracks the deals.
The DA.
Right. They don't reference who it is in here because they promise her that she will get immunity.
Yeah.
If she does 3 things. 1, testifies against Rob in trial. 2, tells the truth, because of course. And 3, takes them to the body. So Leslie leads them to a property that her father owns.
Oh!
Along the Suwannee River in the north central region of Gilchrist County, Florida. Not too far. She leads them right to the body.
Wow.
And Rosemary has been buried
for 9 years.
For 9 years in this unpopulated land. And Leslie knows exactly where she is. So this part's a little heavy. Okay, so they are able to retrieve the green tote. It's duct taped, and because it was so tightly, duct tape, Rosemary has not decomposed as much as she would have been if she was just buried in the elements,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So they actually find the tote upside down in the burial site.
They probably just dumped it like in, so
Exactly.
it just flipped.
Exactly, Amy. And in the tote, they find Rosemary wearing her, like it's described as like a kimono, so like pajamas. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a pillow in there with her. And the autopsy reveals that there are 3 stab wounds. So
So she was asleep in bed, presumably.
I don't know, but remember, he tells his story says that she fell on the knife. So I guess she fell on the knife 3 times.
Yeah.
Stood up, fell down on it, which assumingly this knife stands on its own.
Yeah. I mean, it's a magical weapon.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So back in California, Robert is formally charged with first-degree murder and extradited back to Florida. And Leslie walks free. Okay? So
Rosemary's Family, I would have issue with that. That's like grateful that she came forward, but also like they've been wondering where she was for 9 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's
no matter
like
how
not
you look
okay.
at it, it's
That's
not
like
okay.
not okay.
Mm-hmm. So Robert's in jail. He's awaiting trial, and he's telling his story. This is the police. We're back to the interview.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not police interview. The investigative journalist is interviewing him in prison or jail. Excuse me. Goodness
Could you imagine
sakes.
as his lawyer? You're like, no, you're on trial. You're not going to take interviews.
Amy. Robert does not have a lawyer.
Oh, of course, because he's going to be his own. He's so smart.
We'll get to that. Robert decides at this point he's going to tell the truth.
Oh.
Okay. So here's the story. Okay, I did not kill Rosemary. I loved Rosemary so much. Leslie killed Rosemary, and I helped her cover it up. I didn't kill her, and I shouldn't be punished for something I didn't do. He literally says that. But I did help cover it up. He says Leslie was at the condo waiting for him to come home so they could have their little affair. And, right, because like the mistress is, of course, waiting at home where the wife lives. Sure. Uh-huh. And Rosemary apparently walks in and surprises her. Maybe she's not supposed to be home. I don't know. He says that Rose attacked Leslie. So now not only is he blaming Leslie for the murder, now he's blaming Rosemary for engaging the altercation.
But also, too, you come home and you find a strange woman in your house.
Oh, I'd attack her too.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say that. But yes.
But she doesn't come home in pajamas.
And if this story was true,
yeah,
she knows who Leslie is. Because remember, she knew about the affair. Anyway, we know that this is BS. I mean, I guess we're assuming it's BS, but we don't believe Robert at all. So whether this story has some truth to it or not, we just still don't believe Robert, no matter what.
Yeah.
So he says that Rose attacked Leslie. They wrestle. Again, they fall off of the bed. Okay, sound familiar? He tells a lot of stories where someone ends up with injuries where they fell together.
If you've got someone strange in your house, how do you end up in the bedroom?
Exactly, Amy. It makes zero sense. But this is his story. Again, he says that that they're in this physical altercation, and then Leslie realizes Rose isn't moving and breathing, and she rolls her over and sees that there's a knife under Rosemary's body. So again, we're still telling the Rosemary fell on a knife story.
Yeah.
So even though he's trying to pin it on Leslie, he's still, even in his disgusting way, trying to not blame Leslie.
Did he take a polygraph?
I don't know. It's not mentioned.
Yeah.
But
I mean, people beat him too, but.
Right. I mean, when he is actually arrested, like there's so much evidence. He just goes straight to jail and he never gets out.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I'm not sure. He says that he gets home and Leslie's panicking and that Robert has to help Leslie dispose of the body. So he tells the investigative journalist in this jail interview, my goodness, either way, he has not been tried yet. Okay?
Yeah. So he's in county jail probably.
Yeah. So and that's relevant because he's telling this story pre-trial.
Yeah.
Okay. So he tells the journalist that he loved Rosemary so much that he buried her with her favorite pillow as a sign of respect. Okay, but the funny thing about that, as you noted, the tote had actually been kicked down into the hole and landed upside down.
Oh my gosh. So that was so respectful.
Super respectful. I'm mentioning that because he is truly a disgusting, dismissive.
He treated
being.
her like a piece of garbage.
He did.
Their whole relationship. And it ended up with her just being thrown away.
Yep. So Robert continues to deny that he's guilty and says he can't wait for his day in court where he knows he will be found innocent. At this point, the interview ends and he slams the glass with a photo of Rosemary that he's carried with him this whole time and declares his love for her.
I hope she.
He is so gross. So now it's the summer of 2011. He's been awaiting trial.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Mr. Dumpster decides that he's going to act as his own lawyer.
Of course he is. He's so smart.
And he rolls his pathetic ass into court in a wheelchair.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. And actually says in court, I'm dying. Why can't you just leave me alone?
This sounds like Harvey Weinstein.
It does. And Robert Durst.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Robert is 61 years old at this point. Rose's son, it just says one son, but I don't know if both of them were there, but he actually flew in for the trial.
Yeah.
And he confronts him directly in court and says, why don't you just
tell the truth?
Tell the truth. Have remorse. Show remorse for what you've done. And this skin sack of wasted oxygen looks at Rosemary's son stone cold and says, because I didn't do it.
Mm.
He is a sociopath, psychopath, narcissist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just saying these are the terms we attach to people with these behaviors.
Well, his inability to have empathy.
Exactly.
Towards someone else.
Exactly. So this is July. So in July of 2011, after only 2 hours of deliberation.
Good for the jury. They're probably like, we figured it out in 10 minutes, but we have to pretend like.
Yeah, that 2 hours was for lunch break and bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
Okay. So he is sentenced to life in prison. He somehow, it does not say, at least in any of the material I was able to find, say how he escaped the death penalty, but he did.
Yeah.
And he thrives in prison from here on out, right? He's living his best life. He's finally happy. Nope, just kidding. He dies on December 11th, 2018, and was known to be just a miserable inmate who never, if rarely, but never reported had visitors.
I'm glad nobody saw him. He didn't deserve visitors.
Yeah, and again, like his daughter from the previous marriage and even his daughter from the marriage to Leslie are never mentioned, never named in any of the sources.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe they did and that's not disclosed. But either way, like the story that his cellmates and stuff say is that he was miserable and he was never visited.
Yeah.
All right. So Amy, that's the surprise segment episode.
That was a wild.
Yep, of the disappearance and the death of Rosemary Christensen, a beautiful human being who did not deserve, of course, as no murder victim does, but she did not deserve to lose her life.
Yeah.
And she left behind loving family and friends who still, to this day, again, share her story and speak about her with love.
Yeah.
So Rosemary is deeply missed. Amy, at the end of all of our episodes, we give our takeaways, right?
Yeah.
And our takeaways can either be real estate related, true crime related, or both.
Okay.
Do you have your takeaway ready?
Sure.
Okay, go for it.
I was just thinking as you were telling this case that I love it that Rosemary had such great friends, that they voiced their concerns with her with the relationship that she had, but also supported the decision that she made to stay in the relationship and still loved her, and then fought for her after she died, and rallied a community to, provide a reward and to look for her and engaged. And I just think that shows a testament to how Rosemary was as a person. But I think we all could, make sure that we have those people that really will call us out when that we need to be, but support us when we need it, and your right and dies, know?
Yeah.
So
That's a great takeaway. And that's exactly why back when I introduced her friends, Kathy, Laurel, and Jeff, I referred to them as her support system, meaning still to this day, they're her support system. It wasn't a past tense expression. They still to this day are sharing her story.
Yeah.
And this story, we're telling it in the context of real estate related crimes, but this obviously falls into the greater category of domestic violence and death due to domestic violence, most often statistically against women. And unfortunately, that's a common thread in some of these stories that we're going to be telling. And, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
So my takeaway is that, we as human beings are creatures of habit, right? Believe somebody when they show you who they are.
Yeah.
Believe somebody when they tell you who they are. Robert had a long and gruesome, violent record of interactions with women, children. He had no limits on who he would hurt. Even the first time, even if Rosemary didn't know any of that before they got married, she still had a violent encounter with him 3 weeks before they were married.
Yeah.
And I am not victim shaming or blaming Rosemary at all for moving forward with her marriage. I am just saying humans are creatures of habit. It's rare that a behavior like that is ever a one-time incident, or that it doesn't have a repeat, right? Or a history previous to it. If you're in an interaction or you find out that there is somebody that you interact with in your daily life or on an intimate level who has these types of behaviors, it is a red flag that you cannot escape from. And we all need to guard ourselves in the best way that we're capable of.
Yeah.
Of course, there are human beings that are going to end up, unfortunately, falling prey to these types of perpetrators, no matter what we do. But I'm just saying, with all the kindness I can, protect yourself in the best way that you're capable of.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think that's great.
Okay, Amy, this case it's done. Oof.
Yeah.
It was rough one to tell, rough one to listen to, but let's keep telling her story so that Rosemary is never forgotten. All right, Amy, we will talk soon.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you guys later. Bye.